low pass and second order high pass filter. What is generally a filter? Well, the idea of the filter is uh, to get the desired output out of it and remove the unwanted ones. So in digital signal processing, almost every system is regarded as filter because it filter out the desired output. So it can be continuous time filter, or it can be a discrete time filter. We discussed the continuous time one that last week. It comprises of an operational amplifier, it comprises of a capacitor, resistor, and if you need a different filter every time, you have to redesign it from the beginning. And also, if you want to increase the order of the filter, the number of components will increase exponentially as well. On the other hand, discrete time filter is just a program actually inside the computer. So once you sample a continuous time signal and store inside the computer, you can easily call that function. You can modify the function to convert it into any other kind of filter. And in order to increase the order of the filter, you just have to increase the loop value. But there is an overhead. Of course, there will be computational cost, but it's nothing in comparison to the analog filter. Also, you can store the input, output, the filter response inside the system in case of continuous time filter or analog filters. The moment there is input, there is output, the signal is gone. You can't do anything with it. So this is the reason we are discussing digital signal processing, DSPs, and filters in discrete time mostly. So this is the usual response. We are usually looking for a pass band. I mean, it's ideally it's supposed to be smooth, but we always get kind of ripples. It's very rare to get an ideal response. So this is usually pass band, which allows the signal to pass without any modification. This is usually the region, transition region. And then we have the stop band, which is supposed to be zero ideally, but it's never happened because of some of the reasons we're going to discuss in a while. Okay, so it's just a little board discussion about what do we consider as a cutoff frequency when the response of a filter go by down by 3 dB, which actually mean that when the amplitude is dropped by the maximum amplitude divided by under root 2, that means 2.707 of the original value. That's around about 70%. So when a signal amplitude is dropped by that amount, it's usually regarded as the cutoff frequency. Anything from that point onward is not considered. So if you want to filter something out, this is going to be your cutoff frequency. So the response has to be more than 70%, only then it's considered as a pass band. Of course, there are ripples in the pass band, there are ripples in the stop band. Mostly the signal is impacted by the ripples in pass band, not in stop band. Or the ideal filter is to ensure that these ripples are minimum. This region, transient region, is supposed to be as sharp as it's possible. And these ripples are supposed to be gone too, because if you see there are variation, that means they can still kind of allow some of the signal to pass through. Fundamentally, there are two types of filter: analog filters and digital filters, which we discussed earlier on a little. Then there are further subdivision in the form of either low pass, high pass, band stop, or band pass. These are like the fundamental categorization. Of course, then these days we have different kind of filters, because if you want to isolate a specific, like if you want to remove faces or cars or some specific objects from an image or video, or if you want to isolate a specific sound from an audio call, so of course those are specialized filters. You can't regard them as low pass, high pass, or band pass. They are usually specialized filter to give you the desired behavior. Ideally, I would say all the AI systems, they are kind of specialized filters because they give you the desired response, and they are actually digital signal processing filters. So it's just for revision kind of thing, that this is how low pass filter look like, this is how a high pass filter look like, this is how a band stop filter look like. I mean, it stop a specific band, it allow the band beyond sub frequency and below allow the band before some specific frequency. And band pass, on the other hand, allow only a specific band and stop everything around it. Now, regarding the discrete time signals, usually it's represented by x of n. The output is usually represented by y of n. And then we have transfer function. So a signal has to go through this system, which has some specific transfer function which performed on the input samples, and we get the output y of n. So this is a general diagram of any discrete time filter. It can be low pass, it can be high pass, band pass, or any discrete time system. Okay, last week we discussed the first order filter. Today we're gonna have a little bit further work. Now this is the region where I'm gonna discuss a little bit about the second order low pass filter, and then there is some work for you guys to do actually as part of your assignment. You do understand that this is theory class and there is going to be a lab class straight away after this. Of course, there will be a small break, and then you guys can start working on that. And there will be multiple assignments. The lecture is going to be mostly interactive. So I'll keep on discussing stuff and I'll keep on giving you the work. The way we're gonna do the sessional and the examination process is that the assignment that I gave you are any quiz. So the first 10 people who submit, that only they get to get the marks for it. So you guys have to kind of compete every time the lecture is delivered. Okay, now this is a journal second order low pass filter having 3 components. This two actually represent is a second order filter. So this is one kind of representation. This is how you represent it actually in MATLAB. This is generally you write it down in n domain, because n represents the samples. We no longer have the sense of time. I told you that in the previous lecture last week that once you sample a signal and store it inside the computer, they are just stored with reference to number. Is it the first sample, second sample, third sample, then fourth sample? There is no sense of time anymore. So this is the expression of the second order filter. But at this stage, from just looking at this expression, we can't say whether it is a low pass or high pass filter. So what we do is that we further visualize it. We take its frequency response. Remember, I told you guys in the previous class that all you have to do is replace delta of n minus k with e raised to power minus j omega and jk omega, and this is what you get. We had that discussion last week. So all I did is just replace them by the corresponding components, and we end up with this expression. Still, this expression is not in the format that you can plot. So what we have to do, we have to rearrange it. Now this is like a square plus 2ab plus b square. So we rearrange it and it's become a plus b square. Now this, if you look at this, this is exactly the expression we sorted out last week for the first order filter. Only thing is that it is in the square bracket. So we'll do exactly the same arithmetic operation on it. We take this component out and we end up with this expression. So what actually happens is that let me just clear this thing. This 2 is actually outside this bracket. So yeah, just small, because the square was for both of them. So yeah, we take this component out, and now we have these 2 component inside it. So if you multiply this with this, we end up with 1. We multiply this with this, you will end up with this thing. So yeah, now we have e raised to power j theta plus e raised to power minus j theta, which is actually equal to 2 cos of theta. So after squaring 2 cos theta, it becomes 4 cos square theta, where theta in this case is omega by 2. And this, you know, if you have e raised to power j theta and it's squared, so the square, the power is actually multiplied in here. So the 2 is gone and you have e raised to power minus j omega. And that is actually equivalent to an angle of minus omega. Now, you can either plot this value directly, by substituting different values, or you can convert it into in this format: 1 plus cos of 2 omega divided by 2. Of course, the 2 is being cancelled out in here. So 1 plus cos of 2 theta, this is actually how it is. I'm sure you guys know how to plot that. So this is your very first assignment, to plot its amplitude and magnitude spectrum and the phase spectrum. Phase in this case is minus omega, which is pretty straightforward. It is just like y is equal to minus x. So this is your second order low pass filter. The second thing you have to do is that in last class we had a value of x of n as the input. So you have to pass the same value through this filter, and from that value you can find out the value of y of n. So you have to plot x of n, h of n, and then y of n in time domain, and then there are